Okay, in this video we're going to do Snowman 2, and the difference between Snowman 1 and Snowman 2 is that Snowman 1 was done entirely in object mode. In Snowman 2 we're going to go ahead and add textures and materials, but the key thing is we're going to go into edit mode. In edit mode we can change individual vertices, and so we'll be doing everything we did in the first video, but now we're going to be adding some more ideas. In any case, this one is kind of an expressive scene where this snowman just realizes the second snowman is melting, and here we're good to go. Okay, so I just saved Snowman 1 and I resaved it as Snowman 2. And so now this is exactly where I left off in Snowman 1, and I'm going to edit this. I'm going to go into edit mode. So the big deal in this one is I'm coming down here and changing from object mode, and if I click on some object I can then change that into edit mode. The first thing I'm going to edit is I'm going to change the shape of the plane. So I think I'll get rid of these trees. Let me hit 0 on the number pad so that I get rid of, I'm not looking just through the camera anymore. And I better start actually by deleting some things. So back in object mode I'm going to delete these trees because I'm going to put in different kind of trees. So I'll delete him, delete the trunks, and so forth. And now what I want to do is select the plane, and I'm going to hit 7 on the number pad and look directly down at the top. So I can see, let's see, I hit the mouse button and move this guy over. So this is F7, I'm looking right down. If I hit F1, if I hit the 1 on the number pad, I'm looking down the y-axis. If I hit the 3, I'm looking down the x-axis. And if I hit 7, I'm looking right down the top. And so I'm going to zoom out of here a little bit. And I can see that's a fairly large scene, but now with the plane selected I'm going to hit tab and I'm going to hit W to go into a little special menu that'll pop up, and I'm going to hit subdivide, and you're limited to 10 subdivisions at a time. So I'm going to do it once, then I'll hit W again, subdivide, and now I'll bump that up another 10. And so I need a lot of vertices. If I look at this closely, when I'm in edit mode, every one of these little vertices makes up my plane. Originally I just had 4 vertices. I can select by vertex, or I can select a line, or I can select a plane, but I'm going to start off here. And the reason I subdivided it, and the reason I wanted to give this guy more geometry, is that if I go in from edit mode, I can go into sculpt mode. And if I go into sculpt mode, I can hit these brushes over here. I'm going to choose blob. I'm going to increase the size of this guy. I'm going to make sure symmetry is turned off, and then I'm going to come over here and just kind of bump this up. And so the Sculpt Brush is able to take this snowy scene and change it so that it actually has, looks like a little hilly scene. And this will make some really nice kind of shading edges. If I come back over here and choose the Smooth Brush, I can just take that and smooth it down a bit. And let's go ahead and see what that looks like. If I come back in here now and hit go back into edit mode, but I'm going to go into rendered view, and there's my snowman. So I have a little hilly scene, very pretty, and really nice subtle shading changes going on in here. Okay, good. Now let's go ahead and do the same thing for the snowman itself. If I come back into solid view, solid render, I want to come in here. I'm going to choose, go into object mode, I'm going to choose this guy, and I would like to, actually I think what I'll do is I'll get rid of all of this. So let's move this guy, move him to another layer for a moment, and I'm going to delete most of the snowman. Z to go into wirebrush mode, I'm going to hit B to box select all of these guys, being careful not to delete the light, and delete. Now I'm going to go ahead and change this guy. So Z to go back into solid mode, and I'm going to select my base. I'm going to tab into edit mode. I think I'll subdivide this guy just a little bit. So subdivide just once. And now if I go into sculpt mode, I can begin to change him a little bit. So let's go back and get my blob brush. I probably move this guy way down. And I want this guy to look like he was being sort of patted down by children when they made this snowman. And I'll just come around and get all the different sides and just kind of make a rougher, different shape. And so really easy to do. And then I'll maybe go back and change this even more by going into smoothing. Okay, so it just looks a little bit like it was actually made out of snow. So you do all kinds of things in Sculpt Mode and Edit Mode, but once I have them the way that I want them, I'm going to go back into Object Mode, and I'm going to say Shift D for duplicate. I'm going to move him up on the Z axis, and I'm going to shrink him down. And it would probably be a good idea if I rotated him. Maybe I'll just rotate him a bit on the Z axis so those irregularities don't all line up. So again, rotate on the Z axis, and yeah, let's try that. Okay, if I want to smooth down more, I can, and I'll say Shift D Z one more time, scale him way down, and now maybe I'll just rotate him on some other axis. So, and now on the Z. So anyway, now it looks like I have a snowman. You can see these lines aren't quite so even as they were before, so it looks a little bit more like a legit snowman. Okay, now to do the nose this time, I think I'll put the 3D cursor over here, and instead of adding a cone, I'm going to add a circle. And the reason I want to add a circle, as soon as you do this, you can choose the number of facets. I think I'll have, I'll have 12 vertices on my circle, and the size doesn't matter right now, so I'll hit enter, and there's my circle. If I tab into edit mode, I can see that I've got 12 vertices on my circle, and what I want to do is I'm going to hit E for extrude, and I'm going to extrude this guy on the Z axis. I'm going to move him up, and I'm going to make a carrot nose, but instead of just using a cone, he's going to be kind of a different shape. So let's go ahead and scale this in a bit, and maybe I'll rotate that a bit, and I'll hit extrude again, and scale him in, and rotate that guy, and extrude again. And I keep doing this until I get a shape that I'm comfortable with, and extrude. Let's say I go straight up this time, scale it down, rotate him, and we'll just do this a couple more times. Extrude, scale, and extrude. Oh, what happened there? So I'll undo that, then I'll say extrude, and finally scale them all the way down into a shape. So that's going to be my basic shape. Now that doesn't look great, but I can move things around if I want to. So again, if I go into Z, hit A was going to toggle on and off, select all my vertices. So I don't like the way this is over too much. So I will simply grab him back, maybe grab this guy up on top. Okay, so that's my carrot. So go back into solid mode. I'm going to tab back into object mode, and I can shrink him way down, and I'm ready to move him to my head of my snowman. I think that snowman head's a little bit too small now that I'm looking at it, so I'm going to make him a bit larger. And now I'll say Shift S, cursor to selected, Shift S again, and now I'll say selection to cursor. And that's a pretty cool looking hat, but what I'll do is rotate on the Y axis, and way too big, so I'm going to scale him down. And maybe I'll just scale him a little bit on there, and on the X axis I'll pull him out. And so there's my snowman nose. Much, much better than I had before, in my opinion. And I can do the same thing for the hat. Let's go ahead and just see what this guy looks like. Let's put my plane back in. So I come over here, select my plane, hit M to move him back to the original layer, and then I'll move back to the original layer, and their snowman is right there. Let's see what this guy looks like. So right away, looking pretty good, but he needs a little bit of color on that nose, I think. So if I select the nose, and I'm going to say new color. Actually, I already have some colors. Let's use the same color I used before. Ooh, I did not have the nose selected. So let's try selecting the nose again and adding that orange color. And so now that's a more realistic looking carrot nose. Okay, now let's do a hat. And the hat again, we could do it, start it the same way we did before, but I think, in this case, I think I'll make the hat the same way that I just made the carrot. I'll just come over to my circle, It's going to save the settings I had before. I think I'll bump this guy up to 36 this time, and can start him wherever I want. And I'm just going to look right down the x-axis, and if I tab into edit mode and now say extrude, and on the z-axis make a little brim, extrude, and immediately scale down. I'll say extrude on the z-axis, and maybe I want this guy to have a little hat band, so I'll say extrude on the S, and then I'll say extrude again on the Z, and I will scale that out. And so I've got an interesting looking hat. If I hit F, I can fill that in, and let's see what that looks like. Right away, if I do this, tab back into edit mode, that's my shape. It looks a little rough, so I can add something called a modifier. If I go over to my properties panels and hit the wrench, I can do a Subsurf Modifier, and it'll get rid of some of those. Notice it changes the shape, and the reason it did that is that it's adding this layer inside the original mesh I made. It acts kind of like a cage. So what I could do is Control R, make a loop cut, and bring that back up, and I can get rid of some of those deformities. Make another loop cut there. So loop cuts are done sort of in 3 phases. Control R puts the purple line there, left click, and then bring it, slide it down to you want. When I let go and click, it stays in place. I'm going to do the same thing here. Let go and click. I'll do the same thing down here. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. Looks a little bit better in my opinion. So I'll select the head, and I'm going to say on the head, Shift S, I'm going to say cursor to selected. I'm going to grab this guy, Shift S, selection to cursor, and I'm going to scale this guy down and move him into position, and there is my hat. It can easily be scaled down a bit more. Okay, let's give him a color. Let's give him the same color that I gave before. So I select Mars for materials, come down here, and I've got my hat color right there. And so now let's take another look in rendered view, and I've got the beginning of my snowman. Another thing I want to do is get rid of all these facets, and so if I just click on the snow plane and come back to Tools and go to Smooth Shading, it'll look much smoother, and that is a pretty good start, in my opinion, to our little snowman. Now I've got the light coming from this side, and I'm building him in the shadows, so I think I'll change that. I'm going to come back into Solid Mode. I'm going to grab my light. The sunlight doesn't matter where it is actually in the plane, and so if I simply grab him, change my gizmo down here, maybe I want to change the coordinates to local, and so I can change the direction of that guy. So I'm going to turn him so he's pointing the other way, and if I look back now in rendered mode, I should see light coming from the other direction. Actually, that looks awfully strange, so let's go back in here and see what happened. Looks like I have them pointed too far up. Okay, so it was like the light was coming from underneath, and so now I'm going to say, so now I've got my shadow. Now he's pointing directly at him. I don't like that either. I need to go kind of from the side, but at least we can see what's going on. In any case, there's my first part of my snowman. I'm going to go ahead and make some arms, some eyes, put some different kinds of trees in, and then we'll be done with Snowman 2. Okay, to make the arms, we can do the same thing we did with the nose, but I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to use a skin modifier. And so to use the skin modifier, I'm just going to go ahead and say Shift S, cursor to center, and then I'll look at number pad 7 to look at this from the top down. And why am I way over here? Anyway, okay, so now I want to add a plane. Basically what I want to do is just get a single vertex, and so the plane only has 4 vertices. I'll just delete 3 of them, and so that's good. Now I'm going to take this guy and I will put him, turn off my gizmo, I'll take this guy and put him at the center. So again, Shift S, and now selection to cursor. So I have the origin of the object, I have the 3D cursor, and I have the vertex all in the same place, and I'm just going to make a little shape like a tree branch. So if I do Control left click like that, I'll back up here, and maybe I'll make some fingers, So that's going to be my little tree branch, and that's going to be the arm. Okay, so now I'm going to select the whole thing, and I'm going to add a new modifier that we haven't used before, and that's the skin modifier. And so that looks kind of weird. That's not really very helping very much. And so I'm going to go into wireframe mode, and I'm going to hit tab. Oh, I should turn my screencast keys on. Sorry about that. I started this video last week, and so things might look a little bit different. But in any case, I've got this now, and this is a skin modifier. So it sort of created this mesh. These meshes aren't very good, but they'll work for this purpose quite well, I think. So I'm going to hit Control A to push this guy in. I just select the vertex, and instead of hitting S to scale, it's Control A to scale this down, and I just work my way up the branch. In fact, I think I'll do a tree this way as well. In any case, push this in, push these guys all in, and then, you know, trees, branches, taper, get smaller as you go out, and so that's what we'll do. So just keep pushing these out until it gets to be the right shape. I think this guy needs to be smaller, maybe this guy as well. Okay, so that's looking pretty good to me. Maybe I'll make this a little bit smaller, and then you can go ahead and just kind of move things around. So that looks like a little branch to me. Maybe I'll move this guy out. So the other thing is, right now I did this all on a plane. So if I look at it from the side view, for instance, I can take this and I can bend things a little bit. So let me take this and just bend it down. So let me put my gizmo back on. I'm going to go ahead and push this down a little bit. I'll pull up one finger, push down another one, just so it looks a little bit more like a branch and not so flat. Okay, so that's a branch, and so now what I want to do is I'm going to apply that, and I need to be in object mode to do that. So I'm going to apply that, and then I'm going to add a Subsurf Modifier to this guy. So I come back here, add modifier, subdivision surface, and so that guy's ready to go. I'm in object mode, and so I can just go ahead and say M, move this guy back to layer 1. Then I'll go to layer 1, and somewhere in here is my arm, so he's right here, and I think I'll scale that up just a bit, and I can rotate him into position whatever way I want. And now I'm going to say Shift D and do the same thing over here. I guess I'll rotate him all the way over. I could just go back and make another arm, but I think this will work. Let's go ahead and put this guy in here, and yeah. So if I wanted to, I could come in here and change this guy so make him look a little bit different. So actually, let me do that a little bit. I'm just going to come in, and maybe I'll take this guy and grab him. Whoop, didn't get all of it. So the reason that happened was because I don't have this thing in this little transparency button. So when I box selected, I didn't get it all. So let's do that again. Now if I box select, having hit that little transparency button, that should work a little bit better. And so I'm just going to move this guy around a little bit just so the two arms don't look exactly the same. And I can zoom in here quite a bit actually. So grab this guy. C is for circle select. Let's go ahead and rotate this guy on the x-axis. Grab him, move him back down. Anyway, so these will look a little bit different. I'm not going to waste too much time on this, though. Might be actually easier just to go ahead and do a whole new arm. But anyway, that's what I've got right now. So those are my two arms, and we can go ahead and put some color on these guys. So hit the Mars button for material, and I see I've got some colors. I think what I'll do, though, is I will append a color. So I've got this folder called Metamassive Material. I've actually got a bunch of different materials that I've downloaded. I guess I moved them over here. Anyway, so let's go into this one, Metamassive Materials. I hit Materials again, and then I've got some wood material over here, so I'll take, let's say, Wood 4, and I'm going to take some other materials, maybe for the hat, so I can append. Now this will come right back up. Well, let's do something shiny about Flakes Purple. Okay, so I think I'll make the hat Flakes Purple. So that'll show up right over here in this little window, this guy. So now the hat's purple, and I'm going to use the wood, which is down here for that arm, and I'm going to use the wood, again, the same one for that arm. And so now if I look at this guy in rendered mode, I get this. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. Oh, that looks interesting. In any case, I'm going to stop here, and that'll be it for this video. Okay, bye-bye.